Greetings and welcome back to 303. We are back in Mr. Conrad's Unstoppable Volume, Lesson 2-7. You should also have your journals there as well. This one is entitled Letters from Hell. This is going to be one of the letters that Mr. Conrad provides of a student of his who ended up in terrible level of incarceration for a really bad deed of his own. Let's go ahead and write down in our journals really quickly the focus here. The sad realities of a poor choice. The sad realities. Write it down. The sad realities of a poor choice. So often, it isn't until after we have made a decision that cannot be reversed that we then come to realize really just how terribly, tragically sad, sometimes graphically sad our choice is. Here we're going to get an example of it. This, I hope you're reading with me. This was the first letter Don Smith, number 63934, sent me after being incarcerated in the Canyon City prison. Mr. Conrad, it was great to hear from you. I'm doing okay, as I hope you are. First off, as of now, I can't discuss the events of the night I was arrested. My case is still in the court system, and my lawyer advised me not to discuss it right now. However, I'll tell you how it felt to be on trial. I think the trial was the most mind-draining, stressful experience up until I came here. I couldn't understand all the legal mumbo-jumbo discussed before, during, and after the trial. My lawyers advised me not to speak on anything unless to them. I was sitting quiet while the district attorney spoke lies and continually tried to make me look like a total ruthless individual. My life, my future was in the hands of 12 jurors and the judge. I had to hear a story I tried so hard to set aside. I had to look at very graphic photographs of the crime I so shamefully committed. I couldn't sleep at night when I did fitfully. My future was out of my hands, so I wanted some control. My lawyers kept trying to keep some confidence going in my defense. The day I was sentenced, when the judge told me I had no choice but to sentence you to a life sentence, 40 years until I'm eligible for parole. If the state has their way, I won't be free again until 2030. You could do the fast math here to just see how old he would be if he went in at even the age of 20. All because I felt I needed to drink to have a good time. And in turn, the alcohol gave me the false confidence or false courage to take the life of another human being. Now, I sit in prison carrying the guilt and shame of being a convicted murderer. Here in prison, my crime is considered respectable. If it takes killing someone to get respect, I don't need it. When I came to DOC, Department of Corrections, I was scared to death. After seeing all the stereotypical events shown on TV, those things do happen here. Since I've been down, I've seen people stabbed, raped, thrown from the top tier. I've seen men hit with baseball bats, horseshoes, weights, and locks stuffed in a sock. You have to fight. You have no choice. The weak are preyed upon here. A week after I got to Shadow Mountain Correctional Facility, a man standing about 6'3", weighing probably 230 pounds, came into my cell and said I was going to be his punk, that he was going to sodomize me. I was scared to death. I stood and told him he'd have to kill me. He took a step toward me, and I kicked him in the shin with all I had. He grabbed his leg, and I kicked him in the other knee. As he hit the floor, I just kicked him and kicked. I then drug him out of my cell. I stood shaking and trying to catch my breath. I couldn't believe it had been so easy. The man I defended myself from was a black man. Here in prison, racism is put right out in front. If you don't stand with your white brother, you can't expect to be helped when you need help. If you don't have partners in prison, if you don't show that you'll stand with them, then you can't survive because they won't stand for you. Tattoos are a big thing here. People walk around exposing swastikas. White pride or black or brown pride written down the backs of their arms. I have friends who are totally covered with tattoos. When I was on the streets, I really didn't know prejudice. But now that I'm in prison, I have no choice. I work alongside black people, but when it comes down to it, I'm expected to hate them. One thing that all races are united on is the hate for the cops. Most cops are on the level, but there are those who continually disrespect you, treat you like a child, and there are those who are afraid to come out and say what they mean. They beat around the bush and lie to you. Another thing hated here is the sex offender, especially child molesters, and in my opinion, they deserve no respect or consideration. Hate thrives here in the joint, and it's expected. Drugs and alcohol are here too. You can get anything from homemade wine to marijuana to heroin here. It's all here. It's all there to find on the yard. Drug debts, gambling debts, store debts are what causes most of the stabbings and fights here. People who run stores will sell you cigarettes, candy, food, or whatever at prices which include 100% interest. One item for two with a week to pay. Every week you don't pay, it increases 100% until the store decides not to carry you. Then you take a beating or check in, go into protective custody, which ranks down there with snitches and homosexuals. Well, that's about it for now. Getting late. I have to work tomorrow building electronic components for about $3 a day. Until next time, take care. Sincerely, Don Smith, number 63934. I received, Mr. Conrad now continuing, I received several more letters from number 63934 that year. I always wrote back. Eventually, I contacted the warden at the prison. I had an idea. I wanted all the kids at our school to hear Don's story, especially how the alcohol in the night of the shooting made him stoppable. The warden agreed it was a good idea. Number 63934 was going to tell his side of the story for the very first time. He would do it in front of a packed auditorium. Even the judge who sentenced him would be there. You could hear a pin drop as I dialed the numbers and made the phone call. And then finally he says, Mr. Conrad says, the choices we make can take us to heaven or hell. The unstoppable you makes the right choices. Let's finish with some observations here really quickly. Just jot these down in your journals. One, if Don, think about this question. If Don could have seen the future, what he writes about, for example, in this letter, do you think he would have chosen to drink and party that night if he could have known the future? Think of it this way. Wisdom, let's define it, number 2, is the ability to see the future and then decide to make the right choice before it actually happens. That is wisdom. And of course, that's the challenge, isn't it? Of course, note, when in survival mode, did you notice this in the story? Racism is always high. Why is that the case? Usually the answer, of course, is because where there is survivor situations, there's often hate. Hate, of course, leading to the levels of racism and prejudice. Finally, being racists puts you in a prison of hate. Think about that. Being racists puts you in a prison of hate. Well, there it is, lesson 27. We'll move on to 28 in that important moment when Don Smith was able to talk. Thank you.